site later. What the fuck ever. Hey, we're live. Look at that, man. We're having an interesting debate, everybody. This Life in Tech, episode 20, special episode with just Dan and I. And it's a special episode because it's early rather than late. We're on the ball this time. I'm Jason.
And I am Dan.
And we're just having this, we just started this debate about information. And I was going to go one way with this, man, but you brought up something cool. So let's key everybody in, if you don't mind repeating what you were just talking about.
Yeah, so I was just reading this article from that Bruce Schneier is quoted in. And to me, it's kind of interesting. He's talking about, and I'm paraphrasing, so someone could easily get the entire article and read it because I'm doing it from memory. But basically, he's saying agile development is one of the worst things that could ever happen from a security perspective, because app developers in general, I mean, I already think that they're primarily they're not conscious of whatever it is that they're coding, and their coding practices could be anything from grabbing snippets off of the internet. It could be they're reusing code, which I get from from being on a quick side. I get that, but that means if you have a vulnerability, you have it across all platforms. Probably worse so than Java. So anyway, so Bruce is saying in here that we're gonna wind up being forced with government intervention into our lives because of bad software assurance practices, because the government can't have people's homes being damaged, airplanes possibly being damaged, connected cars, all of these kind of things. And so if we don't clean up our act now, there will be government intervention, and we may not like that. Let me see if I can find that article. I had it.
Yeah, I was just looking for it. So, I mean, you're not Bruce, and you're not speaking for Bruce. I mean, maybe you will, but here's what I understand.
No, here it is. It's at the Register. So here we go. Bam.
What's the link, man?
Government regulation will clip coders' wings, says Bruce Schneier.
I got it.
Posted yesterday. So,
there it is. I got it. Look at his crazy fucking eyes in that photo, dude.
Yeah.
Dude's a little bit off, man. Here's what I understand, because to me it's a little bit of a false equivalency. First of all, government has nothing to do with any of those industries. They're not government regulated, and in the sense that the government controls the software going into it, right? They're bidding out jobs, and those jobs meet certain technical and business requirements, just like any other project. And either it does or it doesn't, and they put it in. So here's what I understand, man. Let's break down an analogy here for a little bit of a thought experiment. If you and I are the chief security officer of a company, let's say we're just co, right? We're both running the show, and we set a policy that says users cannot do X, okay? And we do that ignorant of what users' jobs are. And let's say 50% of the users' jobs become 50% more difficult because we didn't account for their business process. We just made this arbitrary rule X.
Sure.
So whose fault is it when they break that rule to get their job done? Is it ours or theirs?
Oh, well, in this case, because security needs to clearly be aligned with the business principles. I mean, this was one of the biggest reasons why we have all these breaches. But the thing that I just you mentioned that the government doesn't have any aspect into those regulations. I disagree, because there is a national highway safety stuff that has to go on. There is a lot of things. The automobile industry is highly regulated. Medicine is highly regulated. There's a lot of standards that have to be gone, and testing that has to take place. But I think what's failing is that we are not clear in what those security standards should be and how it's going to be integrated into the overall, in this case, hardware is the majority pieces of all those industries now. Where's the SDLC? Why aren't they having to adhere, just like with SOX, just like with PCI, HIPAA, all those things? Why is there nothing there now? I mean, we know this problem is going to happen. There's been computer chips in cars since the late 90s.
Well, wait, no, there are. I mean, you bring up PCI, for instance, which is heavily regulated.
Yeah.
And it does require software assurance. It absolutely requires it.
Absolutely.
And let's be optimistic and say that software assurance happens to the letter of that regulatory framework when it's assessed. But what about the next 11 fucking months when you're in operation and you're not being assessed, right? So that, I mean, this is why to me it's a bit of a false equivalency. You're taking something. Let's take the airline industry, because that's heavily fucking government regulated.
Oh yeah.
Down to the software, right? I mean, I can't imagine. I've never worked for the FAA. We both know people that have or do and have done serious software work for them.
They only allegedly did work. I mean, they were government employees.
Well, Howard Van Horn, man, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. I was referring to your favorite non-doctor.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, man. See, the gloves just never come on, man. I don't think you were born with gloves. Anyway, but how often does the airline change that software? Like, I mean, we know it's pretty stagnant, right?
Yeah, I mean, just recently, what was it? Not even a year ago, American Airlines systems were at least shown the real possibility of being compromised because they did not properly secure the Wi-Fi in the plane.
Right. But that's a new thing for them. What I'm saying is their environment's pretty static, and that's unlike anything else, right? I would argue that any operating environment that's subject to PCI regulation and control objectives is nothing close to static. I mean, it's super dynamic, right? It's changing often.
I would say PCI is that.
Even the restaurant industry where I worked, right? And when I started there, man, and this was in 2000, let's say between 2004 2006, somewhere around there. They still had NT4. So they're not progressive in adopting new technology, particularly in things that are, let's say, baseline, like an operating system. But the software is super dynamic and is changing. I don't know how many times we change shit in the POS environment, down to the POS system itself. It's constantly changing.
Right.
So my point is, to make that kind of a statement, for Bruce Schneier to make that kind of a statement, to me is a logical fallacy. And other people have said this, so this isn't my thought necessarily, I'm just paraphrasing it. What I think the better strategy is, and a better use of your vocal energy, right? Your grandstanding, let's say, because that's what the guy likes to grandstand. I mean, what the fuck has Bruce Schneier ever done other than write a book? And I'm not saying that's insignificant, but it's not like he did something.
He did write a couple good, crypto protocols. A pretty decent hashing algorithm.
Wait, but a lot of good that does the fucking developers.
Well, I don't disagree with that part, but yeah.
That's like saying because I'm an astronaut, I get to tell the fucking airline pilots how to fly.
Well, no, that's not. I think it's a little. I mean, Bruce has produced some pretty decent software companies, so
Counterpane?
I say in this case, I will say the reason why I say it did exit for a significant amount of money.
Wait, but that's a far cry different than saying anyway, man. Look,
hey, I'm judging success in this case by a successful exit.
I know you are, and I know why you are, and clearly I'm not.
I know you're not.
Wait, so here's my point. Rather than telling developers that they're wrong, why not understand what it is they're trying to do and give them better tools to do it with? Okay?
I don't disagree with that.
Input validation. It's been the #1 cause of issues for what? Since the 50s, the 60s at least, right? Particularly
since we've had computers.
Particularly when we're talking about buffer overflow, right? Forget about SQL injection because it's a different operating environment. Buffer overflow is a simple, basic fucking error to allow that to happen, right? Why the fuck does the language even allow it? Why does the language allow it? Wait, so this is interesting to me, man. The languages that allow it are the older, non-modern languages. The languages that are modern, that are higher level and they're heavier, I'm not going to say don't allow it, but because of their architecture, it doesn't work the same way, right? Trying to have a buffer overflow in Java or C#, which are very modern, high-level languages that have built-in garbage collection because of the VM they run in and all that stuff, right? Is way different than C and C++. It's way different.
Sure.
This is what I find interesting about our community and people like Bruce Schneier, is they'll shit on developers, and they're not developers themselves, right? Okay? And I understand why they're saying what they're saying, but they shit on them in ignorance. So they'll say, don't use Java, don't use C#, don't use these modern languages because they're not good. Use these older languages, which inherently are flawed because they allow this shit to happen.
Right.
But then it's your fault for doing it.
You know, I'm going to take Bruce's thing and I'm going to spin it a little bit because I'm not as, I'm not as down on all the developers as in this case as to what he is. But my point is, as we become more in these connected systems, where's the segregation point? It's the architecture, to me, is the problem of the system, not just the software. You've got these airplanes that are pretty static, but the principles for security architecture have been around since medieval times in terms of this is how we get this whole thing for DMZ zones and stuff like that. Why is that Wi-Fi data point, that connection, even permitted to even communicate in any way, shape, or form with the main components of the airline? That's just it's those principles that I fault. I really do fault the security industry for that, because that is one of those things. Why? When we get these connected homes, why aren't there people going, hey, look, you should be using a Wi-Fi access point that has the capability of 2 separate SSIDs. Keep your connected home on this one and your home internet stuff on this one. So that way you're not having to possibly expose your PII data in terms of, like, I'm banking today and it's being mixed in with the same traffic. There's ways of doing these things. Where is it? In a car? I feel that, probably the Tesla system, I recently just got a chance to ride in one. It is badass. It is complete badass. And I would buy one. So, okay, I'm pretty sure that, Tesla Motors has probably thought about some of these things, and they've probably got some firewalls in there and some stuff that says, hey, if you're coming from this part of the car, you can't go talk to this part of the car. But
right, and
no one's talking about those things. They just want to say software developers, you suck. And I don't think that's completely fair.
Right, and you and I now are talking about something very similar in concept and philosophy. It's just an inherent part of the design, and to the point where it's not even a choice, right? It's not me as an architect saying, okay, I'm going to put these components over here, these components over here, and then I'll talk. It actually needs to be deeper than that. It needs to be implicit and inherent in the language of the design itself. So check this out. This is the shit that scares me. Here's a quote from this article. This is Bruce talking. We've allowed, and I'm quoting, we've allowed programmers to have this special place in society to code the world as they see fit. I don't think we can do that anymore. Shut the fuck up. Wait a minute. So this is the stuff that drives me crazy, though, man. And maybe it's because I sit on both sides of the fence between these communities, right? Maybe, I don't know. Or just maybe I have an open mind and I'm not a fucking idiot. So you're part of a community, and you're supposed to be a thought leader for this community that expresses the notion that information should be free. And we should be able to create our reality as we see fit as individuals, right? That's part of the hacker ethos. And now you're saying to this other segment of technology, because you view yourself as superior to them, that they shouldn't be able to do that. Only we can do that. And this is the shit that drives me crazy about our community in general, is it's inherently adversarial. Everybody else is an adversary. And this is why we don't have languages that inherently have secure principles, not even security, just secure principles baked into their very design framework. Because of this shit. Because we're dickheads. We treat everybody like shit. It's always everybody else's fault.
I treat my peasants very well, thank you.
I couldn't say, man. I've never been a peasant.
Well, I should say my subjects. My subjects. That's a more politically common term.
We'll have to get Brandon back on here now.
It is one of those things where, one, I think that the biggest point to this is that, is Bruce really part of that, research community?
Well, who the fuck is we? What do you mean we've allowed programmers? Who's we?
Well, that's what my whole point. I would not consider Bruce ever a part of that security research community. He is. I don't think that he has. I mean, he's put out some things that are some decent encryption protocols, some decent hashing algorithms, but he's not I wouldn't consider him, when I say in this case security research, I'm talking about, the more of the good guys, Batman like, hacker community, not the people that are just, straight doing things for, evil purposes.
Well, that's an interesting point. This is what I understand, and this is a question for Brandon next time we have him on, man, or some of our other acquaintances that have similar viewpoints. If it's all like this article opens up, I quote, "Governments are going to get involved regardless because the risks are too great. When people start dying," end quote.
Well, no one's died yet.
No. Right.
This is a fear-mongering aspect, just like what the government tries to use in order of everything else.
Exactly. And this is what I don't understand about this part of the security community. If it really is all doom and gloom, if people really are going to hack the autopilots in all of our Teslas, because I would love a future where everybody was just given a Tesla by the government. I totally support that. The same model, same color, everything. Everything's identical, no fucking deviation, right? Okay?
Go ahead. A bunch of lemmings. Go ahead.
It's better for society.
I don't. No. What's better for society is certain people just don't need to procreate. I mean, we're getting into a point to where mediocrity. I mean, that's or Idiocracy, the movie, right? Where that feels like what's really happening. I mean, have you taken a look at the presidential candidates? I mean,
I looked heavily at the person I'm voting for. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Gary Johnson, 2016.
That's not what you told me earlier. You said you were absolutely voting for Hillary Clinton.
That's just because I want a cigar stuffed up my ass.
Oh my god.
Anyway, man. So this is what this is part of what drives me crazy about the community is the fear mongering. Listen, if it's all doom and gloom, then why are you using it? If you really think the NSA is spying on your canonical fucking updates from Ubuntu, then why are you using it? Why are you using a computer?
And there's so many ways. If you believe that that's what's happening, there's this new thing called proxies. There's VPNs. There's Tor. There's so many different ways in which you can get your update to mask or raise the bar to make it extremely challenging that you're the one using Ubuntu.
But you know what I mean? Instead of telling everybody that people are going to die, come on, man. Of course, look, it's a logical fallacy. Of course, people are going to die. Are they going to die from this? I don't know how likely that is, man.
I tend to agree with that. I mean, I just, it's no different than people say, like there was this guy on Twitter that I was responding to earlier today. He said that 2/3 of all people polled, and it was a pretty big poll in terms of the number of respondents, would not do business with those companies that were breached. And I said, this is absolutely incorrect. And I started listing off some of the names of the ones that I just remember off the top of my head. Target, Home Depot, Starbucks, Kmart, Jimmy John's, Neiman Marcus, Sony. There was, I can't remember which bank was on there, Chase, JP Morgan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those companies are all doing quite well. And they haven't, as a matter of fact, they're all, of the ones that I've looked at, I haven't looked at Sony, I haven't looked at some of the other ones, but let's take Target, for instance. They are trading higher today than what they were before the breach. We have short-term memory loss because no one died. What's most likely going to happen is that these malicious actors are more interested in either fame or they're interested in money. Maybe they're being paid to do it. Maybe they're looking to get the money themselves. But criminals that have, the modern day bank robber, they're just going where the money is.
Yeah.
Money. They're not necessarily looking to kill someone.
No. And here's an interesting future, man. What if in the future a CIO decides, hey, it's more cost effective for my shareholders, because let's be clear, that is the CIO's responsibility, part of it, right?
I would say all officers of the company.
Yeah. It's in the best interest of my shareholders to allow a breach to happen so I can crowdsource my remediation rather than take on the cost of proactively remediating.
I mean, that's the reason why I did bug bounty. I mean, I crowdsourced it.
Yeah, but we didn't allow a breach. I'm talking about somebody sitting down and maybe in a boardroom, because if this hasn't happened, it's not far off, man. I mean, if right, somebody, well, actually, this is very similar to what happened with TJ Maxx, right? Their
Yep.
decision
Okay.
with the wireless was not unlike this, as I understand it. It's anyway, man. So I mean, the government's not going to step in. What politician in their right mind is going to get on a platform with some re-election looming in the future at some point, right? And say this needs to be controlled for these reasons. When let's be honest, still at this point, we talked about this a couple episodes ago when we were talking about literacy. Most people don't understand what the fuck you're talking about anyway, man. You're in an echo chamber. The only people that read this article are people like me and you. So
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because they have done this at least to the federal government agencies to have something along the lines of a continuous monitoring of your overall risk. And so what you have accepted, you need to be able to prove that you're still within your baselines. That's to me is not out of the realms of possibility because I mean all these publicly traded companies are either COBIT, ISO, PCI, SOX, Gramley Bliley, you name it, that maybe they wind up saying, look, you have to have one of whatever industry it is, you need to have one of those things in place, be certified, and show that you're continuously looking at those things and prove that you're actually adhering to your own policies. I mean, this is the reason why, what was the hotel, Wyndham, just recently through the appellate, they went to the appellate court system. The court said, you didn't put reasonable protections in based on the data that you said you were collecting, so pay up. So either it's going to be done through law, which is the worst way for it to be done, or companies will actually just start doing the right thing. So that way they don't have to pay out in litigation. Because I don't have to have a law to still say that you were not following due care or due diligence in protecting my data and sue your ass.
Sure. Well, I think part of it too, man, is our concept as a society of data, right? We still treat data like fucking Polaroid pictures, like it's permanent, right? And data's not in the sense of its intent and meaning, right? The object itself, even if it's electronic, right, it is as permanent as its storage medium. I understand that, right? But
it's as permanent as archive.org or .com, whichever one it is.
The Wayback Machine. Yeah. But see, so we still can. I think this is an interesting point, man. This is what I was going to bring up originally, is we conflate that kind of snapshotting with the permanency of the intent and the meaning. And you actually see this in politics now, where changing your mind is somehow bad, and it's anti-scientific, right? Somehow we conflate flip-flopping for popularity with being presented with reasonable, rational evidence of something different and changing our minds because it makes sense. And that, I think that's a big problem in business with data. One of the reasons you and I are always so successful with our design is because we understand the time part of it and the immediacy of meaning. So why do I need all this stuff? Why do I need to worry about IoT, Bruce? If I understand the temporal aspect of data.
Well, I guess it comes down to, to, at least to me, that change is inevitable. Either adapt and survive, or you're going to go the way of the dodo bird. And I don't know. Maybe the reason why Bruce is saying some of these outlandish things is because he's trying. Maybe he's attempting to maintain some level of relevancy.
Yeah.
But again, at least to me, the data, once you put it out there, is out there. I think politicians and business people that are in a position to where when they change their mind, because they don't actually say, hey, I changed my mind because of new information that presented me with something that I didn't know before. Therefore, I have now a new opinion. That we're evolved. If we're not evolving as a society, that we can only evolve as a society if we start evolving as individuals first, and then as a society, and so on and so forth. But I change my opinions on things. I have not changed my opinion that I believe that Hillary Clinton belongs in jail. I believe she does, because and the reason for that, even it's a little bit of divergent, but it is still here, and I think it's about technology. She's got a law degree. She was a first lady. She was a senator. She was the Secretary of State. She knew damn well taking classified information out of a controlled environment is illegal. Period.
I got a scenario for you, man. A hypothetical.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're on a jury, and
hang on. Oh, sorry.
I was going to make a South joke.
Yeah.
We're on a jury. It's a dual trial, and on trial are Hillary and Edward Snowden. And as the jury, we can only levy one decision. So who are we putting
Death penalty.
in jail?
Death penalty.
For who?
You said one decision. So
One decision.
One decision for both.
No, one
Death
decision.
penalty for both.
One decision for one case. It's a dual trial. So we have to judge both and figure out which one we're making the decision for. Who gets it?
Who gets what? Jail time?
Whatever our decision is. We can only make
both
one.
Get whatever they should both
Stay in the scenario, bitch. We can only levy one decision.
I lost you there for a minute.
I lost you. Now you're back. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So one decision. So only one of them can be found guilty, and only one of them can receive a sentence. Who's guilty and what's the sentence?
Oh, see, I don't have to make that choice because they're both guilty.
And maybe we agree on that, but we can only sentence one of them. So which is it?
That way she can't run for president.
Oh, God. You know who I want to go work for? I'm going to go work for John McAfee.
Oh.
Just to fucking be part of the fucking chaos, man. For 12 months, dude. Just give me 12 months. Could you imagine?
Dude, he's put together his own hacker committee. Have you seen that?
Yes. He was on my ballot, man.
Really?
For here in California? Yeah.
Did you vote for him?
No, man. No,
why not?
I wrote in Gary Johnson.
Oh. I think it would have been well. I don't get to vote in the primaries here in Maryland.
Why?
Because I'm registered libertarian. So there is no.
Oh, you don't.
They didn't have anything for the primary.
Yeah.
They don't have anything in the primaries for that.
Right.
So I can only vote in the general election. So I got to wait until November, or whenever the general elections are for the different things from governor and all that kind of stuff. But
talking about information, how in your opinion, in my opinion, it's a giant crock of shit. That I can only vote for my party, even in a primary. Like I don't have an open ballot where I can just assess everybody. And B, perhaps even more importantly, that these debates, I don't know why, but I didn't know this. I didn't know that a private company put on those debates. That's not an open public thing. That's a private company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't have an issue with the aspect of the state because every state is different. It's up to the state to determine how they're going to allow people to vote in terms of the primaries. So your state, there's plenty of states that actually have an open election. You can only vote for one, and so it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever. You get to vote, and then that's that. It's just, maybe that's just because I'm. I don't know what's the right word, but I believe in the spirit of the way in which our founding fathers created the country, and that we're a republic of states. And I think that's a big problem that we in our society today is that we have forgotten that yes, we're a U.S. citizen, but the states' rights are extremely important, and we've lost sight of that. If you don't like the way the laws are in Maryland, go move to a different state. I think that's gone by the wayside because it's basically almost become one complete cesspool of population.
I was going to say New World Order, but cesspool might be more.
Yeah, cesspool might be, and I think that's just a problem that we forget. Maybe it's because of the teachings being brought up now that people forget about that because it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's not as sexy as hey, I'm in the Fed. I mean, I think that the aspect of the full-time politician outside of president, governor, you should not be that is your full-time employment. And I think that's another problem that we have. But
yeah, well, what it creates is a very opaque information system, and that's part of the asymmetry that exists in our culture. You have professional arguers, e.g., lawyers, that become professional politicians that are financially incentivized to argue. Like forever.
They're not. Yeah, and they have no idea what their constituents really care about. No idea.
Well, how could they?
Barbara Mikulski here in Maryland, I want her to retire. She should have retired 20 years ago. She's a Democrat senator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can't stand her.
Yeah. So the federal government, I think you and I tend to be very constitutionalist and libertarian in this way.
Yeah.
The federal government should provide basic federal needs. And this is maybe one area where we do differ a little bit. If we're talking about a federal president that oversees all of the states, I don't know that each state should be deciding how they participate in that. I think that should be a federal decision. And if you want to participate, that's a choice. But if you're going to participate, here's the way you do it. And it should be unified. This whole bullshit this whole primary thing could be done. And man, we haven't voted yet in California. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Wait, I thought your all's primaries were last Tuesday.
Yeah, but that was after all the bullshit came out about Hillary winning the primary.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's a non sequitur in a way, and a little bit of a straw man, but it's definitely true that certain states don't really participate.
Well, so I mean, don't you think that, at least I believe this, because Californians already believe that they're happen to be the number one in the country, that they want to wait so late in the year to actually be that deciding vote for who's going to be the nomination?
Well, here's the problem, man. I understand the spirit of why the Electoral College was created, especially if you look at modern day California as an example of a state. Our GDP is in the top 10 of all fucking countries.
Yeah.
You can't let a state by GDP and population dominate an election. You can't let that. That's another extreme. So listen, man, why not just count all the votes? Let everybody vote openly. No more this registration bullshit, which is just a way to register people to get in the fucking DMV system so you can get called for jury duty. Let's be honest, right? It's revenue collection, in a like a long con way, in my opinion. Let everybody vote at the same time, electronically. No more paper bullshit. No more making me go to a fucking school or a church somewhere. Let me do it online, and I can vote for anybody. And just count it. I mean, dude, what are we doing, man? We're not pilgrims anymore.
Well, they have the party aspect. So, that's just in the primaries. In the general election, you can vote for whoever you want.
Right. So why is the primary an exemption?
Well, the primary is supposed to be voting for who your candidate, based on your political party, who you want to represent you.
Right. But my point is it's based on a static data attribute. Because I was Democratic 4 years ago.
Doesn't mean you are today.
Right, and the system assumes I am, which means that it assumes I haven't changed my mind.
Well, you have, I don't know, there is a date until when you can change your party affiliation for the upcoming election.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, I don't see, I can cast one vote for the primaries, and I can cast one vote for the general election. So why am I limited in the primaries to my party affiliation? Just allow me to cast one vote then and one vote in the general. Because I think the reason might be, okay, so let's say, that's probably a better example. Let's say you're a registered Republican, and you just don't want, you're pretty confident that Donald Trump is going to get the Republican nomination, but you don't want Hillary to get the Democrat. So instead, you vote for Bernie Sanders in the primaries. I think that's the reason why they don't want that to happen, because it's more about, in that case, of blocking a political rival rather than voting for the person you want. Maybe, I don't know. That's just what I came up with off the top of my head.
I understand. I don't know if you've done this, man. There's a great web app some people created called isidewith.com. And they created categories according to major issues like abortion, gay marriage, voter fraud, role of government, and all this stuff, man. It's pretty in depth, and they've indexed opinions of all the run, as far as I can tell, all the running candidates, anybody that said they were running for president, right? So like even somebody as extreme and outside as John McAfee is on this system. And you go through and you answer these questions, kind of like a Myers-Briggs personality test, right?
Okay.
And what it outputs in a percentage is which candidate is most aligned with your views. I find that pretty interesting, man. It's pretty interesting.
What's the website?
isidewith.com.
isidewith.com. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Check it out, man. The output from me was pretty close to what I suspected. Bernie Sanders and Gary Johnson are very aligned.
See, all this time, I would have expected to be the Hillary Clinton for you.
Anyway, man.
Well, let's talking about that information for a moment. This is something that does kind of irritate me, because I almost believe that this is not too much different than the stolen valor stuff. Here you've got Elizabeth Warren telling everyone for years that she's American Indian. Okay, so you're making this claim. There's this new company called Ancestry.com that'll actually do that ethnicity test for you, because my ex-wife kept claiming that she was, American Indian heritage. Now, that was because that's what she was told, but she had zero American Indian blood in her. Zero. So, in terms of access to information, you're a politician. You're choosing to be in the public. You got no right to privacy. So I want to see, these kind of records. It doesn't matter to me. Your financial statements, you claim to be a particular ethnicity. Prove it. I want to see it. I don't. Elizabeth Warren kept making those kind of claims. She used those claims in order to advance her career. I think it's time to show it.
Did you want to see Obama's birth certificate too?
No. See, this is the one thing that, to me in this particular, if it was available, sure. But this is the thing that I think people forget. There are both Republicans and Democrats on the intelligence committee, the committee. They would have spoken out if President Obama was not a naturalized citizen well before he ever got an opportunity to be elected president, because they were all given an intelligence briefing when it's possible that they could become president, especially when they're going to be the presumptive nominee. That would never have occurred if that wasn't the case. So I have no reason to believe that President Obama was not a naturalized citizen.
Oh, Trump's going to build a wall around your house, bro. So it's an interesting point about information. I don't know. I have a hard time understanding. To me, it's a red herring. I really don't care. It doesn't impact me in one. To me, it's very similar to, and you and I have heard lots of people say this. So and so did or didn't do something, and that impacts my doctorate. It makes mine seem less. And I'm being very transparent and honest in this. I don't understand that thinking. I don't understand how what somebody else did or didn't do impacts what I did or didn't do. They're completely separate events.
No, I agree.
They're related in context. I understand that, but
my effort didn't change.
Right. I did what I did, and I know what I right. It seems like such an external red herring to me that I don't understand it. So, like with her, if she did do this, which the evidence said she did, claiming to be American Indian, and she gained some advantage from it, is it really her fault, man? Maybe she's a little bit of a scumbag, but
it's not so much about that. It's that the aspect that she's a politician right now, and so if you make this claim, prove it. If the citizenry now says prove it, especially if she's going to be the VP candidate. I, for one, would want to know that information. That changes my mind about whether or not I vote for Trump or Hillary Clinton or Gary Johnson.
Well, here's an interesting question, man. Here's an interesting question, because this happens a lot, especially with politicians and celebrities too, right? Anybody that's in the public eye for any amount of time, any significant material amount of time. If she did do it, right? Let's just have a thought experiment for a second, hypothetical. If she did do it and she did gain some advantage from it, doesn't that make her more normal? Not an exception?
Oh, I don't have so much of an issue of if she used it or not. It's that you're still claiming that you are this, and now you are a public figure. To me, that crossover, once you've become an elected official, you should be showing all the cards on the table, because you're now you have, while you're an elected official, your records should be open. And so if she's an American Indian, because again, I mean, I believe that, as a society, yeah, we probably shafted the American Indians just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. So, they get special privileges if you are an American Indian, just like if you're a native Eskimo, things like that. It's a protected class.
Inuit, man. Inuit's the preferred nomenclature, dude.
Okay, well, I'm just going by what I've seen on the EEOE documents. So it says, Native Alaskan on there or something like that. Anyway, if you're a protected class, then and you're benefiting from it, you need to show it. Especially when you're now an elected official.
I don't disagree. What's unfortunate about it is somebody's going to take, the media is going to take that and spin it in a way where somehow she's less of a candidate. You saw the same thing with Bill Clinton. Was he less of a president because he got his dick sucked?
I mean, I never thought he was that great of a president to begin with. So no, how could he be any worse?
Right. So he wasn't worse because he got his dick sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, is he a scumbag? Well, I mean, he took a fucking oath to not do that shit when he got married. So in that case, right?
Well, we don't know what kind of agreement Hillary and Bill have.
Exactly.
So
exactly,
they might have been in an open marriage for all I know. I don't know. Yeah. So that's between those two. I mean, I felt in that particular instance that that was not something that needed to even be brought up for what he did in his, in this particular case. That's between husband and wife. They deal with those kind of things. That didn't need to go in front of Congress for an impeachment hearing.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, but it's interesting though, because where does it stop? And let me be very clear, and I've said this before, I don't think it should stop. I think it should accelerate in this direction. If Elizabeth Warren has to open up her ancestry, her genetic material, because she's a public official, then why should we be abstracted away from the Clintons' private sex life?
I think there's a difference. I think there's a big difference, because Elizabeth Warren has made that, she volunteered that information as part of her public persona. So Bill and Hillary did not volunteer what goes on in their bedroom.
Okay, fair enough.
So so because of that, and I think that's the real distinction, because there's this aspect going on, which is another thing that I think is, being taken way out of context, like everything going on with Gawker and like Hulk Hogan, right? That's another instance of revenge porn. And to me, revenge porn is currently and should be an illegal act, because you didn't have consent to take my material and make it public, because it happened behind closed doors. You didn't do this out in public. And there's people going, oh, free speech, free speech. Free speech is only freedom of protection from the government. Not, you just because you're a news agency and you receive something that you did not. I mean, this is what's amazing to me. The Inquirer did not want to take that. TMZ did not want to take that. They knew.
This is an interesting. I think this is a really interesting point about information, man, and because I was going to wrap up with the concept of repudiation, non-repudiation. This is interesting. In my opinion, had Gawker as a journalistic source, if we put them in that context, right? Because that's how they were trying to sell themselves. If they had reported that Hogan did it, that's different in my mind from receiving the video and just playing it. And the reason in my thinking it's not freedom of speech is because it's not their speech. They just took the video and played it. They didn't produce a piece of journalistic material
Absolutely.
as primary data, which is their words.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. I think that's a huge distinction. They could have reported the information. It has been reported that, Terry Bollea has had sexual relations with whatever the guy's name was, the Love Sponge's wife or whatever.
Yeah, I don't fucking know that. I haven't watched Big Time Wrestling since I was like 12.
Oh no, what I'm talking about in terms of it was some radio guy out in Florida that Hulk Hogan was friends with.
And it was? I thought he was another wrestler. Oh shit.
And he banged his wife, and so the guy videotaped it. I mean, whatever they're into. I mean, that's whatever.
How many fucking views did that video get? Well, let me rephrase my question.
I have no idea.
Millions?
I have no idea, but I bet a lot.
Dude, there's something fundamentally wrong with us. There's something fundamentally wrong with all of us that we pretend like somehow that's dirty and bad. I mean, dude, I just had sex last night. How can I say it's bad for this other guy to have sex? Is he a scumbag if they were married and there wasn't an open agreement? Maybe, man. But I'm not there. What the fuck do I have to do with it?
That's right. I mean, it's not. That's up to them. But I think there's this part where this piece where they don't understand that you can be fired from your job for what you say. You are only free from government persecution based on what you say.
Right.
There are limits, and the same thing. You're not just you say something and you're a public figure. You better be ready to be transparent about your data.
And here's why, man. I'm gonna wrap up with this. What's interesting to me is increasingly because of the immediacy of information and the way it's parroted, not reported, parroted, right? Taking other people's content and just putting it out there, right? And I don't mean this in a tinfoil hat way, but you really have to stand back and ask, did this person really say this? And the reason I would argue that especially politicians and public figures, celebrities, need to be 100% transparent is so that you know whether they said it or not, because they're transparent. When they're opaque, they open themselves up to non-repudiation, in my thinking, meaning that somebody finds something and says that so-and-so said it. I mean, we see this all the time with all this social justice warrior bullshit going on now, or for the last few years, right? That so-and-so said this to me and I was triggered. Well, that's he said, she said. I don't know, man. I wasn't there. And neither of you were transparent from the beginning. And I'm not saying you have to be. But if you were, then we would know.
Well, that's why they have verified Twitter accounts. So, hey, newsflash for all you verified Twitter accounts, there's this thing called a password manager, and there's multi-factor authentication. Learn how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, I'm available for consulting at a reasonable rate. I will help you get this on all your devices. I'm sure my good friend Dr. Jason the Ninja Pittman will help as well. We will help you with these things, because when you say something, words carry power, and that information, someone's going to be like us and say, hey, where's the beef?
Yeah. Well, and interesting, I think, as the years come by and we're starting to get exposed to this, as even down to individual citizens, because we can all be stars in the sense that we're public figures. I mean, you and I putting this podcast on, this is live streaming all over the fucking internet. I mean, right now I don't think we have any viewers because, well, at least on this coast it's still early. But we could. I mean, we could wake up the next time and have 1 million viewers for some reason, right? So 1 million people are watching us. At that point, we're no different than a celebrity in terms of viewership, right? People watching us. I think there's a way to be transparent so that you don't open yourselves up to this kind of repudiative bullshit, with still maintaining a certain modicum of privacy, right? It's a transparent segmentation. I don't know necessarily what it means yet, but I think there's a way to do it.
I think you're right. Of course, we're live. It's broadcasting us. What we say on here, it's kind of hard to take back. What someone doesn't know is the intent, sometimes behind what we may have said. What they still may not be able to pick up especially if maybe, and even if they are native English speakers, is whether or not something was sarcastic or not.
Sure.
So those are the kind of things that is difficult, because I mean, people that know me know that I'm trolling people all the time. Except when it comes to Ben Affleck. I think that he should just go ahead and be Aquaman, because it's already the worst superhero ever, and so he can't ruin it anymore. I really think he's probably the worst actor out there, and he keeps getting roles, and he just keeps ruining superheroes.
You're really emotionally invested in this, man.
He ruined Batman. He ruined Batman. I know you didn't think he did a bad job. That's a completely different saying he did a good job. And
I think he did a great job.
I think he did horrible.
I don't think there could have been a better Batman for that Batman context.
I think there could have been a lot better. Basically, if anything, you know, they should have done. They should have gone out and got the better of the actors in that case, and got Matt Damon, because at least Matt Damon can act. And the only reason why Ben Affleck still gets jobs is because the only person that Ben Affleck hasn't betrayed is Matt Damon. So Matt Damon should have just gone ahead and been Batman.
Wow.
I've admitted my bias. I think the guy's just, you know, a horrible actor. And I mean, he wasn't even good in Reindeer Games. That might have been his best work ever.
Phantom joke.
I'm not a fan. But I guess ending it on the point in our little Twitter thing last night, that people, you know, forget that while everyone wants to compare Superman and Batman versus Captain America, Civil War, Captain America had a sworn oath, and he chose to not be accountable and ran. Batman is only accountable to himself. He has no oaths.
No,
so
no, and that's what I was saying, man. That is the point of Batman versus Superman. Is Superman was this more Captain America type character, not Batman.
Yeah,
right? And he was the one that was being worshipped as a hero or as a god in that case. It was Batman that survives in that gray area where there are no answers. There's no rules. There's what needs to be done to deal with this situation.
That's right. And so people should remember that. While there was pieces of the Captain America movie that I liked, people that started getting into this aspect of, oh, well, you know, there were all these similar. No, Captain America did not hold himself up to be accountable. So can we really continue to call him Captain America?
Right. Well, it's interesting, man, because people want to draw this analogy between Captain America and Batman, and that's wrong. It's Superman and Captain America. The more analogous figure is Tony Stark to Batman.
Yeah. Well, but the big difference is that Superman in that movie showed up to court.
Yeah.
He was willing. He didn't have to. Out of all the different superheroes, Superman is basically invincible outside of kryptonite, right? Mm-hmm. So he could have been like, screw all of you for trying to judge me. You're, you know, ants compared to me. No, instead, he showed up. Where was Captain America? Oh, he fled like a bitch.
Yeah, he ran like a fucking pussy.
That's right. So there's my final thoughts, because, you know, we talked about that a couple things. Captain, you know, and just to repeat, the worst superheroes go in order. It is Aquaman, Captain America, and then Iron Man. That's my opinion of the worst three.
Well, let's have this conversation again after you see X-Men Apocalypse, because holy shit.
Did you think it was good?
Oh.
No.
Dude.
See, no. the only X-Men character that I've really been a fan of is Wolverine. I'm starting to become, well, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is in the movie, so I'm sure I'll see it. Yeah, she's in the movie.
No, I'm shaking my head because she is. Oh my god, dude.
Yeah,
oh,
but I don't even think Wolverine's in the movie, is he?
Yeah. He shows up as Weapon X.
Is it still what's his name?
Yeah. Or
do they get a different character to play Wolverine?
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, is he still Hugh Jackman in it?
Yeah, and he's fucking huge. He's ripped.
He's not a small guy.
Well, I don't think the amount of HGH, TRT, and EPO that guy takes is small either.
Probably not.
And you know what? I don't fucking blame him, man. Better living through better pharmaceuticals.
Hey, Grandpa, who I think you've met. Either you've met or you've heard me talk about him a bunch. Right? Dude, he takes that stuff. I mean, he's like 90 years old. He needs to take that stuff in order to be able to continue living. I don't have a problem with that.
Dude, I just turned 40 and I've been looking around. Come on. Why wouldn't I want to feel like 20 in a 40-year-old brain?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about starting to do it myself. I'm gonna go. I'll go do TRT.
Hell yeah.
For the testosterone replacement therapy. For those that don't know, I mean, I've already started with the. All right. I know we're going a little bit over, but I got to just mention this.
Go ahead.
I should have done this at the beginning. So I took the SISM test by ISACA this past Saturday. This has got to be the worst kind of test to ever take. I don't know how ISACA can continue to actually try to say it was done on a frigging Scantron form, and you got to wait 6 weeks for your results. Literally, I had to bring number 2 pencils. I felt like I was in high school again, filling in the bubble sheet. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I got to wait 6 weeks to know what my score is.
Right.
6 weeks. Hey, ISACA, CompTIA, EC Council. First off, make sure your website actually supports TLS 1.2. It's been a standard for about, 15 years, 10 years at least. Neither one, none of you 3 accept that. You are producing security certifications. I should not have to use SSL version 3 to connect to your website. That's my final thoughts.
All right, man. That's episode 20 in the bag. This was a good one. Hey, everybody, if you have any ideas for future episodes, hit one of us up on Twitter. I'm at the real J Pittman. Dan is at NetSecracks. Post a comment in the YouTube after this is archived up there. Whatever you want. I'm not going to give you my phone number, so don't call me.
I'll give it to you. It is. I'm just joking. All right, everyone. Take care.
All right. See you guys later.